Hello, this is Joe Hoft. So glad you are here. Glad to be with you. It's Friday, March, I guess, 21st. It's hard to believe we're almost done with the month of March. So we're almost a quarter into the year. And if you're an accountant, this is a busy time. You're getting ready for quarter end. Been there, done that. And welcome to the show. Hope you enjoy this show. Hope you enjoy your weekend. We've got a lot of basketball going on if you need a reprieve. But lots more going on with President Trump. There isn't a dull day, and with this country needing so much love, support, and really strength, and a number of people to fight, fight, fight. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you joining us. Appreciate you supporting our supporters and all those who we have on here. We got a great show again today. Lots to talk about. So thanks so much for joining us. Um, I wanted to bring up one thing coming up here. I've been mentioning this. We've got about a week left in St. Louis on April 4th through 6th. I will be there joining United Sovereign Americans, joining Ann Vandersteel as keynote speakers there. Should be a great time. Lots of information. Marley Hornick and Harry Hari will both be there. Should be a lot, like I said, a lot of fun, a lot of information. So look forward to seeing you there. And I want to bring that to your attention. You can get tickets by going to joehoft.com. There's a piece on this subject, as well as go to United for Freedom, I think is the website for United Sovereign Americans. You can just Google United Sovereign Americans, and that'll pull up their website as well. You can get tickets. I believe the tickets are $150. That gives you uh, access to 3 days of events: Friday evening, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Gives you lunches on Saturday and Sunday, as well as a dinner on Saturday night. So hopefully you can make it. Really look forward to seeing you, and hope you can be there. I think it's going to be a great time. So I'm honored to be asked to be there and discuss this hot topic of really the election, still the most important topic in our country. I just had talked to Marley Hornick. She's going to be on Monday on the Tina Peters show. We just actually taped it. It was brilliant. She's just really smart, and her and Harry have just done a great job in laying out how broken our election system is. I've done, I think, some excellent work from an auditing perspective on the election, along with a lot of great stories that I put into my 3 book series on the steel, which are behind me, which you can pick up at Amazon. You can order them off my store at joehoff.com as well through Amazon. But they've got a whole different way of looking at things, and it's just great. They too come to the same conclusion. Our elections, when I say it's stolen, I don't say it's stolen from Trump, although I do believe that's the case. It's just really impossible to determine because the elections just weren't certifiable. That wasn't my complaint. That was my absolute opinion on the 2020 election. Never should have been certified. Any auditor with any integrity would come to the same conclusion. And quite frankly, that's why auditors didn't. They were afraid. The big 4 firms were afraid if they stuck their necks out, they would be a target by these politicians that would suffer from the consequences of an accurate assessment of the election, and therefore they stayed out of it. They saw what happened to Arthur Anderson and how Andrew Weissman and Mueller from the Mueller gang and Christopher Wray screwed over Arthur Anderson and shut him down in a day by claiming that they'd committed a crime and they hadn't. And it was found 5 years later they hadn't, but their business was all gone. So that's, I believe, a significant event. I mentioned this on Steve Stern's show Thursday, where I say I really believe that the reason the big 4 firms didn't jump in 2020 because it was really badly broken. I think I'm the only real uh, auditor that's done a thorough job that I did in looking at this. There was no way you should have certified this election. No way. Uh, the other part about my books, both 1 and 3, is the red book is about what led up to the election, and the blue book, my 3rd volume, is about what happened after. I think as I look back at that, what I was doing was really describing this election um, um, industrial complex, is what we called it. just this massive array of entities, NGOs, and companies like Facebook and Twitter, and all these entities that work together to really steal this election away from the American people through propaganda, through preventing the truth to be told, and then, but more importantly, through just theft of the election. So, um, yeah. So, anyways, go out and get yourself a copy if you'd like. I expect to have some with me in St. Louis, so maybe I'll be selling those or giving some of those away as well. So, hope you can meet us in St. Louis. One piece of information I wrote about overnight is the fact that there's this special judge club that was identified by actually, what's her name? Bad Kitty. And on Twitter, she's done incredible work. But there's this entity that she found. It's labeled the American, I'm seeing here, Inns of Court. American Inns of Court. It's a corrupt organization that has a number of these corrupt judges. At least five of the top most corrupt judges in America are part of this group. And it was shocking to see uh, that this group was even formed. But look at the names who's on here. Judge Boasberg, this nut job who's going after Trump now, trying to tell Trump, I want to know when you're flying on Air Force One. You cannot ship people out of the country without me agreeing to it. Just a nut job, corrupt as hell individual whose daughters, twin daughters, and his wife are all benefiting from the nonprofits and the millions and millions of dollars that's flowing through his family through these nonprofits. Just a total crook. He's part of this gang. So is the Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's just an absolute idiot, who just recently was in down at Broadway, spent their time trying to train to be in a play. What a joke! What an untalented ding dong. She's got no. There's no reason on God's green earth that she should be on our Supreme Court. Also, this judge Amit Mehta, he was one of these nasty judges that went after the January Sixers. Judge Burl Howe also went after the Sixers. She's a nasty judge. She's had horrible rulings against Rudy Giuliani and others. Just a nasty piece of work. And then, of course, Supreme Court Justice John Roberts. He's the honorary beacher or bencher of the Middle Temple, whatever the hell that means. It sounds sick, maybe even satanic. Somehow these guys have wormed their way into this temple. Soros has funded it. John Roberts is a piece of work, and saw him just scolding President Trump this past week about how he proves that he doesn't understand the Constitution because he scolds President Trump for suggesting that some of these corrupt judges, like Boasberg, his fellow member of this group, should be impeached. And he scolds Trump for that. He has no right to do that. He has no ability. He has his job is not to say who or should or shouldn't be impeached. His job is to be a judge. He has nothing to do with the impeachment process. So really a scoundrel and a skunk. And I'm wondering if we're going to find, and quite frankly, there's a part of me that hopes that we find out that Justice Roberts is in on the Epstein list. There is a John Roberts that's on that list. Is it the Supreme Court judge? We will find out. But anyways, this group is formed and it's working against the American people. And the way we know that is because of the crooks that are part of this group. So really interesting piece. I've got it up at joehoft.com. Jim at the Gateway Pundit put it up as well. So big story that just came out overnight. This special club. I can't even believe it. It's so hard to imagine. Something else I wanted to bring up again. I've been talking about this now for some time, but I have a attention cash post up at joehoff.com that has to do with Seth Rich. Seth Rich was in that picture. There was a young man that worked at the DNC. If you don't know, if you haven't heard this story, he was murdered in the summer of 2020, walking down the streets of Washington D.C. late at night in a very nice neighborhood. They said at like 4 in the morning he was shot in the back a couple times. Police were almost there on site immediately. Excuse me. The police recorders, their video cams that they had were somehow mysteriously lost or destroyed. So we haven't been able to see what happened there. His family said that even though they labeled it a burglary, he still had his money, his wallet, his phone, and his watch. So they didn't believe anything was taken from him. Uh, but the real story behind Seth Rich is many people, including myself, believe that Seth Rich had something to do with getting emails to WikiLeaks before the 2020 or before the 2016 election. These emails were from the DNC. They showed multiple crimes by the Clinton cartel and the crooks in the DNC. And because these emails made their way to WikiLeaks, they must have narrowed it down to Seth Rich. And he is dead today and has been for 8 years. Attorney Ty Clevenger has been trying to get information on what the FBI knows uh, about Seth Rich. They continue to lie. He eventually found out that they had two laptops of Seth Rich's, his personal and his work laptop. We don't know if they've been destroyed or not. The FBI won't hand over evidence that's on the laptops. We know because as Ty Clevenger recently mentioned, they only provide like 2,000 files on like two laptops. He says the average laptop has thousands and thousands of files. So it doesn't seem that they're being fully honest. So we need Cash Patel to jump in because I think this is what we're going to find is that this is the root of the made up Russia collusion. This defines and will tell us all that that thing was made up, and this gives us more ammunition to go after these monsters that tried to set up President Trump, including Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, and Strzok and Page. All these people need to be held accountable for their actions. We can forgive them, as I heard in this great tweet lately by Lara Logan. We can forgive them, but we still want justice. That doesn't mean we want justice. And so we need to pray for that, for this country, that the real criminals, the real ones, face justice because we cannot continue as an organization, as a country, and allow people to commit murder and yet continue their ways and not be held accountable. So, anyways, attention, Cash. If you know Cash, you're listening and you're able to reach out to him, encourage him to look into this story at joehoff.com and multiple stories around the world about Seth Rich. Big story. Anyways, big news yesterday, kind of off subject, but still nevertheless big news. President Trump signed an executive order to get rid of the education department. It's been nothing but propaganda for children, and teach them young, as the Nazis said and did, and the communists, and that's what our education system's been. And President Trump signed yesterday an executive order to end the Department of Education, push that down to the states, and ultimately, hopefully, down to the parents. So here's the signing, and if you'll notice, the kids have their own executive orders to sign. Take a look.
Should I do this? Do it? Yeah. I think so. Maybe I can speak to this question. It was very lucky. I signed another document that turned out to be very good for the country, and I said, let's use that same pen. I don't know, is anybody superstitious? Ron, are you superstitious? Let's use that same pen.
Yeah, the education department's been corrupt as hell. Just been a terrible disaster that was brought in place by Jimmy Carter. It's time for it to go. Jimmy Carter brought in a lot of stuff that was very, very detrimental to this nation. many of the things that we're facing over the last few years, even that are just broken, and maybe they were designed to be. Certainly, our elections are broken. And they were designed to be. That's for sure. Just had talked to Marley Hornick about that really moments ago. Here's another clip on those kids. Whoever this person says, whoever had Trump sign this thing with children beside him was brilliant. Great idea. So take a look.
Let's use that same pen. Okay.
Yeah, somebody said brilliant. Bring the children out there too. Have them sign it as well. What a great idea. Oh boy, President Trump's moving so fast. The left cannot keep up. They're just the only thing they want to do is just commit violence and destroy Teslas. It's just disgusting. And clearly it's an op. That's clearly an op. They just want to punish Elon Musk for stealing their money, the money they believe is theirs, the money they're stealing from us. These people are demented, they're sick, they're evil. And thank God for President Trump and Elon Musk for standing up to these guys. Um, Same thing with this education. Well, there's a great reason for why the left is screaming about this. And take a look at this.
The Department of Education here in Washington, D.C. is overwhelmingly staffed by radical left Marxist bureaucrats who are in every way hostile to Western civilization, hostile to American interests, and hostile to our founding documents and culture. And so they are using their position and influence inside the Department of Education to try to force agendas like radical gender ideology, like critical race theory, like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all kinds of anti-America curricula and policies on the American people, on our students, on our children. So it's taking away from parents the ability to control and direct the education of their own kids, of their own families. So what we're going to do under President Trump's leadership and direction is to return that authority to the greatest extent possible to the local level where parents can control outcomes, while at the same time making sure that no federal funds are used to support racism, to support gender ideology, or support other ideas and principles that are offensive to the American taxpayer.
Steve Miller is just a genius. He's just incredible communicator. So yeah, he's just great. So anyways, yeah, that's why they're screaming. Anything that stands up against this communist takeover of America, the theft of our rights, that's what they're after, and they hate it when we stand up against them. That's why they hate us. That's why they hate you and me. It was time to hate on them and by making America great again, a great place, the best place ever. That's true. This is our golden years. Let's make that so. And quite frankly, these are the most historic years, maybe in world history. Right now, with President Trump surviving that assassination, Elon Musk jumping on the ship on the train, and then Bobby Kennedy. We've got momentum. We've got a lot of people behind us to fix this country and then fix this world. So President Trump's doing everything right. That southern border's damn near shut down, period, right now. Lowest number of crossers ever last month. President Trump's first full month in office. Maybe less this month. We're going to see the wall built all the way across that southern border, and if we have to, I guess we'll build it all the way across the northern border as well. But he's doing a fantastic job. So hat tip to President Trump, Elon Musk, and all the people that are helping him, like Stephen Miller and more. Um, this past week, President Trump committed to releasing the JFK files. This past week, he did. All the files related to the JFK assassination. We're still trying to figure out all that's in those files, but one piece that came up this just overnight. And one guy who's really been on top of all of this has been Roger Stone. And Roger shared this piece. I'm going to pull it up here on my own screen as well. And basically, it's a classified document, and it says that the and this was just ordered. This was just whatever. It's regarding the JFK assassination, and it says in this memorandum from then FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, who now I'm starting to think he was just a crook, and in a lot of ways. Anyways, he is instructing his subordinates to brief George Bush of the CIA on anything related to the assassination. So tying George Bush, one of our recent presidents, the vice president for Ronald Reagan, to the assassination plot of JFK. So pretty interesting. We know the CIA was involved. We know George Bush was part of the CIA at the time. There's been people that say this picture looks like George Bush on that day in Dallas. Not sure that it is, but he was with the CIA. The CIA was involved, and now we've got Hoover saying send all information to George Bush of the CIA. So he was involved bigger than we know for sure. And don't know about the pictures yet, but this is a pretty unbelievable um, picture, really, of George Bush. So the senior Bush. So pretty amazing. On another note, this past week we've seen the IRS and whistleblowers come out. This one whistleblower was on with Laura Ingraham this past week, and he unloads on the IRS, and it's amazing what he says. So take a look at this.
Yeah, I've been brought in to look at the IRS's modernization program in particular, as well as the operations and maintenance budget. I really care a lot about this country, and this is a huge program that's currently 30 years behind schedule, and it's already $15 billion over budget.
Wait a second. Explain to our viewers what the program is in layman's terms.
Yeah, so the goal is to take, the IRS has some pretty legacy infrastructure. It's actually very similar to what banks have been using. It's old mainframes running COBOL and assembly. And the challenge has been, how do we migrate that to a modern system? Virtually every bank has already done this, but we're still using a lot of those same systems. And typically in industry, this takes a few years, maybe a few $100 million. And we're now 35 years into this program. We've actually been, if you ask them now, it's 5 years away. And it's been 5 years away since 1990. It's supposed to be delivered in 1996, and it's still 5 years away.
In your area of expertise that informs your ability to do this review is what?
I'm a software developer by background, and I'm a CEO of a software technology company.
So when you came into the department, the first thing you do is just get into the guts of the system and see how it operates?
Yeah, really talk to the software developers. Talk to the people on the ground and what they're seeing. I think one encouraging thing is we actually have quite a lot of software talent on the ground, the people writing code. We actually have quite a lot of good people. It is almost always the case that when I ask them what the correct answer is, how do we solve these problems, they're almost always right, which is good. They just haven't been in a position to be empowered to make those decisions. So I'm actually pretty optimistic that we can solve this.
Pretty amazing. One project at the IRS, $15 billion over budget, been going on 30 years, and they're saying maybe in 5 years they'll get it done. It's not even close. Unbelievable. Just nothing but what I'm hearing the IRS is nothing, and probably every one of these organizations. Tons of money flowing into them, tons of money flowing out. Nothing gets done. A lot of contractors make a lot of money on this stuff. God only knows who they are. So, anyways, sad situation. We're going to take a quick break here, but first, let me just mention the Oxford group and how they are helping us. This group is helping investors not buy oil stocks, but collect mailbox money from oil royalties instead. Talking about passive income, residual income, starting with as little as $25 investment. Visit hoftoilboom.com to gain some information on how you can enjoy monthly royalty checks from America's most productive oil basin. You don't need to be wealthy. All you need is a regular brokerage account. Again, that's hoftoilboom.com. Go there, take a look, and appreciate you supporting us and all that we do. We'll be right back after this with none other than the great Can. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Joe Hoft. Are you looking for monthly income without the risk of stocks? Here's something you won't hear about on CNBC. There's a unique way to collect royalties directly from America's most productive oil fields. No exploring, drilling, or operational headaches. You simply collect checks month after month. The best part? You can get started with just $25 through any brokerage account. The Oxford Club's chief income strategist, Mark Lechtenfeld, breaks down what he believes is the #1 loyalty play for 2025. Visit hoftoilboom.com now to learn more. That's hoftoilboom.com, hoftoilboom.com. Stop buying oil stocks and start collecting oil royalty checks now instead.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, a commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF. What is DCF, you ask? We're the best damn sandwich shop in the universe. Do we sell hoagies? Well, we're DCF, and the F doesn't stand for hoagies. We got 9mm sandwiches, we got beastly baguettes, and we toast buns like no other. Looking for training on bun safety? We got you covered, and our ranges are the best place to test out your new Not sandwich. So get your buns out, cause the sun's out, and let's party! We're not actually a sandwich shop.
Hey, we're back. This is Joe Hoff Show. Really thrilled to have with us today Brian Lupo, CannCon himself, great guy and real patriot. Welcome to the Joe Hoff Show, Brian.
Hey, Joe, it's great to see you. How you doing?
Great, man. You look great. You look good. I just said the beard looks nice and trim. No breadcrumbs in it or anything like that. I don't see any birds jumping out, so looking good.
All right. I think you were breaking up a little bit right there, but there are no rat's nests in the beard. It's pretty well kept, though.
That's great.
From dinner.
Well, that's good. I hope, we'll hope we can make it through this without my mic or whatever, the skipping, whatever. We'll make it. Thanks for coming on. It's been a long time since I've seen you. And I don't know, should we start off with a couple pictures? Maybe I could, share the my experience with Brian.
You're gonna blow all your political capital on me. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh man,
that's fine.
Well, there it is. There's one picture. There's Brian driving his luxurious minivan down in Springfield, Missouri, with a couple of our friends from St. Louis, Kristen and Jen. We went down there together back for the third symposium, Lindell Symposium, drove from St. Louis. And there's Brian driving this vehicle. He said he'd never been happier in a vehicle before.
To be crystal clear, that is not my minivan. I do not. I could not be caught owning a minivan. It's just not my thing, man.
That was a great time. We had a great weekend. Really enjoyed it. Spent some time with you and those are great friends there from St. Louis that came down to. Just a great weekend. It was really neat, and I found out that you like fast cars, and so then the only car I could get, I think I picked that car up at the airport when I arrived. It was the only thing they had. It was a choice between like five white minivans, and that was it. And so that's what I got, and it worked out okay though. So, anyways, appreciate you driving back then, by the way, Brian.
Of course, I'll tell you, it was a lot more. It was a lot less scary than driving back with Jim in the middle of the night in his car, the first symposium, and we got completely lost in the middle of nowhere. So
And
yeah,
in
better.
hills though, some of that area is like Ozark Mountains. It's pretty hairy at night, I'm sure, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I met your dad too. How's he doing, by the way? Don't mind
Very
me
good,
asking.
very good, very good. He
Yeah,
actually
great guy.
asks about you and Jim all the time. Whenever I say,
Oh, nice.
How's Jim and Joe doing? How are they doing? They're doing well.
Well, that's good. He was a great guy. Nice guy to meet too. He came down and was really helped us out. That must have been the second symposium.
Mhm.
Just really helped out. I was selling books. He helped me a lot. He was just a great guy. Great guy. We had a great time. And we were sitting there and people were coming up, left and right, wanting to say hi and so nice. And there's a lot of information coming at us, maybe too much. I was just kind of, like, inundated. Plus trying to talk, people wanted to talk. So real busy, a couple days, both times I was there, but it was, it was, really important that I think Lindell did that.
Well, I'll tell you the highlight of the trip for him, as much as he loved meeting you and Jim, it was meeting Lou Dobbs when we got to interview the late great Lou Dobbs,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was awesome. I don't know if you remember that
Yeah.
when we interviewed him. We interviewed Marjorie
Yeah.
Taylor Greene. That was a good trip.
Yeah. I've got a great picture just laughing with MTG. And I remember Lou Dobbs and talking. Together. We interviewed him, and then also we interviewed General Flynn. Wasn't that the same trip we had Flynn as well, or
Yep,
was that? I think so.
yep.
And you were talking 5G stuff at that time, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Did you help write some of that stuff?
No, I didn't write any of
Wow.
it. I had recorded the audiobook for him, and there was some
Ah,
issues with the way that the audio was processed, so it never ended up going to publish. But I had read the entire book on record for General Flynn and for Boone Cutler, who's a friend of mine.
really? So I've
Mhm.
I've never met Boone. I was at an event where he spoke about 5G warfare. How would you describe that?
5G warfare, everything that
Yeah.
we're up against right now, the propaganda machine that we're up against with the media, pitting, the establishment against the populist movement that we're going through right now. Bannon talks a lot about it, the populist revolt, so to speak. We're seeing the 5G warfare over in Europe, especially in Eastern Europe right now. The news that just came out of Romania about replacing Georgescu. I can never say his name, Georgescu, with Simeon. They label this guy as the hard right, the far right guy, and he's really just a. It sounds like he's just an establishment guy that pretends to be a populist in order for the people to feel all nice and rosy about who's being going to be leading Romania potentially. In lieu of arresting their political opponent, because Georgescu was arrested and not allowed to run after they claimed Russian disinformation, Russian interference, right? Russian interference. That's their go-to over there as well.
Surprise, surprise. Yeah, no
Yep.
kidding. So that's one piece, propaganda. What else is involved in 5G warfare?
I mean,
Is
5G.
that
There's a ton of stuff. It's
is
putting governments against each other, against the people, so to speak, right? Um, we see a lot of that going on here with the propaganda on our own soil, with the mainstream media, everything that's going on right now with the judicial system and the way that this stuff is being reported. I have not heard anybody yet report, going to the Alien Enemies Act. I was talking about this earlier on my show. The Supreme Court has already ruled that that's beyond judicial review. But you haven't heard anybody in the media talk about that. In fact, the only person I've heard talk about it is Megyn Kelly, I believe, on her podcast, mentioned it the other day. But just what we're up against, the populist uprising that's going on in this country right now is being thwarted by establishment figures, and it is a war. It's not a kinetic war. It's nobody's, nobody's dying from bloodshed, gunshots, and that traditional warfare. But people were suffering, and we're starting to turn the tides on that war.
The first time I ever heard that term kinetic warfare was I was in Hong Kong and I heard Bannon give a talk, and he was with somebody from MSNBC, and he said, well, we're at war with China. They're at war with us for sure. And he said it was information, which he said they're very good at, economic, and then kinetic. We're not to the kinetic part yet, but he says they're economic and information, they're really big. This is before Trump put in place the tariffs. Trump did a number on them when he put those tariffs in, so that economic, I guess there must be an economic portion of this 5G warfare too, perhaps, I don't know. But Trump crushed China when he put those tariffs in. I don't know if they've recovered their economy. They overbuilt, like we did back in 2008 with homes. They did so with these big, huge, like apartment buildings, condos that are, 30, 40, 50 stories tall. Some of them in the middle of nowhere, which I've seen. And at first thought this is garbage. China's not doing that. And then I started seeing them on my visits through China, and I was blown away. I'm like, my God, this is true. They've overbuilt. They got all this empty property. Nobody's paying for it. That led to off balance sheet liabilities where they're just hiding these debt that they owe. And there's guesses in trillions on that. That was a few years. That was 4 or 5 years ago when I was in Hong Kong. So Trump was crushing them economically. Would you consider economic warfare part of 5G or no? Or just
Oh yeah, absolutely. Economics, psychological operations, psychological warfare. Economics is absolutely a part of that. The tariffs thing is fascinating because as much as, and this goes to the psychological operation, warfare portion of this, is we've been told tariffs are attacks on the people, right? Tariffs are actually really bad and all these other things. Tariffs are really bad for corporations that are shipping their businesses overseas. It's not necessarily bad for us, especially when President Trump has laid out a plan to utilize tariffs as a means of replacing the federal income tax on us. I mean, who here likes taxes? Nobody, right? But what you're seeing right now is, these tariffs are going to go into play on April 2nd. But in the meantime, Trump is using them as leverage to make these deals. We saw it with Canada. We saw it with Mexico. We saw it with a lot of the European Union. I think one of the biggest revelations for a lot of people was the VAT tax that the EU puts on goods shipped to the United States, or excuse me, goods shipped from the United States to the EU. I never realized that the reason we don't see American cars over there is because there's a 30% value added tax on American cars going over there. And so we don't have that same thing over here. You see Porsches and, Mercedes and Audis and Volkswagens all over the place, but you go over there and you don't see Fords and Chevys and Jeeps and Teslas. You don't see that over there. And that's because they've leveraged the United States this whole entire time. And President Trump said, enough of that. We're done with this. And I think that's going to be incredible for the economy in this country.
I think so too. I think it's a great idea. I really hope he goes through with that. There's now, I heard rumblings from his Commerce Secretary that what he's going to do when they balance the budget, so the annual budget, that's when they're going to stop requiring the citizens with less than $150,000 in income pay taxes. I figured out that's like 75 to 80% of all people that pay taxes won't have to anymore. I think but the deal is it brings $7,000 on average to the average person's pocket. That's money they're going to spend. And it's kind of the economy would just absolutely boom. So it's a win for the U.S. big time, and for the Americans. You know, Trump's right. Why are we paying this stuff? Other countries are taxing, the hell out of us. Why do we allow them to send their stuff to us free? It's nobody ever talks about this stuff before Trump. You notice that? Whether it be the wall or the tariff situation, he's the only guy with the guts to do that, and they tackle him for it. And then he's always been right.
Well, I think the one thing President Trump does is he breaks it down in a way that your normal person that's not a finance major or an economics major, that they can actually understand this. And I think that's a big deal. We just saw today the UAE announced a $1.4 trillion investment in the United States over the next 10 years. That's huge, huge. So the Saudis put half a trillion in. You saw the what was the open AI thing? What did they call that? Stargate, I think it was called Stargate, half a trillion dollars. I mean, Trump's going out there, and all these companies and countries are coming to invest in the United States, and that's awesome to see that. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, he sees the potential of this country and how gifted we are and blessed in so many ways. Really smart people here. Here's the thing, Brian. Here's an example of how smart Americans were. So I worked overseas in Hong Kong, as you know, for like 10 years. When we competed with European countries, we had to pay a 35% income tax. They didn't have to pay that. They were maybe at 20%. So for every deal that we were competing with the Europeans on, we had to come up with an additional 15% margin to get us in the ballpark of where these guys are at. And we still won deals. So clearly we were doing that. And Americans are sharp. We made a lot of money overseas despite that. They were the ones that would complain the most about us lowering our tax rate for corporations, Trump, because it didn't make it so easy for them anymore. They couldn't just sit back and rely on the fact that their politicians weren't as stupid as our politicians, putting us in such a shitty position, excuse my language, where we had to compete, with a 15% margin we had to come up with on every deal. Trump was helped so many people out in America by doing that. And then you hear the lefties say this stuff that we need to tax corporations more. They're insane. They ultimately just want to take our money, right?
Donald Trump is breaking the left, and Elon Musk, to be fair. Donald Trump and Elon Musk combined are breaking the left in a way that I never in a million years thought was possible. Pushing them on. I mean, we just saw them basically flip a 180 on the climate change agenda, right? Now it's more important to go after Elon Musk, the creator of electric cars, guy that caught a rocket, a 30-story rocket out of thin air, went and brought back the astronauts that were stuck up there for 9 months when Boeing couldn't do it. And he's literally got the left broken. You go on Doge website and you see that the average taxpayer is now saving almost $800 a year based on just the cutbacks that Elon has been able to uncover in the last 7 weeks. What are we, 8 weeks into the administration? Yeah. I think 2 months today, right? 2 months into the administration.
All right.
And he's saving us $800 a year, each taxpayer. It's huge. It's unbelievable.
It's so great. I think, do you think these are real historic times? I certainly do. What do you think?
I think we are living through when President Trump says the golden age. I think that's an understatement. I really do. I think that we have the potential right here to come out of this so far ahead. And I know it's looking a little bleak right now. You've got these Tesla takedown protests and all these other things going on. But when an animal's backed into a corner, they're going to fight with everything they have. And this animal, the establishment animal, is backed into a corner right now. Donald Trump has just given them blow after blow, proverbially speaking, in a boxing match, defunding USAID, National Endowment for Democracy, cutting all these NGOs in the United States and abroad. The things that he's doing, not just for the United States, but taking away the decades long, centuries long imperialism of the United States and having to have our thumb on every single scale in every single country, putting in favorable regimes and coup d'etats all over the place. I think this is going to be a golden age, not just for us, but for the entire world. And I'm so friggin' excited for this.
I think you're right. These 4 years could be really, really exciting. What's your biggest concerns?
The judiciary right now, this judiciary is absolutely out of control. Like I said earlier, this Alien Invasion Act or Alien Enemies Act has already been settled by the Supreme Court in 1948 in a case called, I think it's Ludecky versus Watson, I believe. And the Supreme Court ruled that they have no authority over the implementation of the Alien Enemies Act, over the execution of it. And so what the judge is challenging right now in that case, and we see this all over, but specifically to that case, the judge is challenging the authority that the president has to do this, when the only thing that he could challenge that would make it a legitimate case would be whether or not President Trump was justified in declaring these Venezuelan migrants, these Tren de Aragua, as foreign terrorist organizations. Once he declares that, it's an invasion. It's an enemy invasion. Foreign terrorists invading our soil. He has, plenary powers, commander in chief, to do what he's doing, but we're not seeing anybody intervene. The Supreme Court has to step up here and say enough is enough with this lawfare. The Social Security lawsuit that just they just temporarily stayed. When you're putting federal employees to look at this data, I mean, federal employees have historically had access to this type of data, but now all of a sudden, because it's DOGE going in there trying to make it efficient, they're not allowed to do it. And one of two things has to happen. Either President Trump has to just decide, I'm not going to listen to these courts. I'm not going to do it. I have my authorities as an Article 2 President of the United States, and I'm enforce it, right? What's the enforcement arm of the judiciary? I can't think of it. I mean, you could say U.S. Marshals, but they're the enforcement arm, but they're under the executive. They're the enforcement arm of the courts, but they're under the executive. So what are the courts going to do about this? Nothing.
Well, the thing that grabs me is in my concern and fear even is in Brazil. They had that monster Supreme Court justice that he himself destroyed that country, and they allowed him to do that. There needed to be some sort of remedy to get rid of these corrupt judges. Now in the U.S., we're saying, "Oh, we got impeachment," but it's never going to happen. Not certainly with the makeup of the Congress right now. So, what do you do when you've got a rogue judge that's doing things that are really unconstitutional, therefore against the law? What do you do? And some of these guys are doing multiple times. This Boasberg guy is a monster. Now I expect you saw that piece of Gateway Pundit last night, and I put it up at joehoff.com. This is kind of a secret entity of judges. Did you see that?
I did. The American, what do they call it? The American In Court, like INN, where Judge Boasberg is the president of this secret society. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson is the vice president. You have Amit Mehta on there. Amit Mehta was she presided over, I believe it was Stewart Rhodes' J6 case. She also presided over some of the cases brought against Donald Trump. I'm trying to remember which one specifically it was. But I mean, this is just a consortium of judges that are meeting in secret with 150 lawyers, federal district judges, and others. I mean, our founding fathers, if we ever told them, hey, you've got 150 lawyers, judges, Supreme Court justices, and you've got these individuals meeting in secret, and we have no idea what they're talking about. I don't know, man. I think our founding fathers would be a little bit perturbed by that. They'd be a little bit upset at that.
I think they'd be upset about a lot of things. I think if they saw the people that are in our Congress right now, they'd be appalled. Some of these people are so they're laughably, morally, incompetent, insane, and really evil. I just think they'd be disgusted to see, how does this person get into our Congress? It's just, and I don't know if they do, to tell you the truth, Brian. I really don't know. If we had a free, fair, and legitimate election in these big cities, would you ever vote in somebody like even Nancy Pelosi or AOC? Would they really ever make it? If we had a free and fair elections? And then how about that? How about if we got rid of the propaganda? Where would we be? And that's what we really ultimately need to do. We need to get rid of this propaganda, allow freedom of speech, but the truth. And because that we were the enemy, we've been the enemy. We've been through. We're kind of coming out of this. Maybe do you feel this way, just like you're coming out of warfare these last 4 or 5 years?
Absolutely. I
Or
saw
eight.
this morning, I wrote an article on Gateway Pundit about USAID and their collaboration with the Global Engagement Center. And I'm sure you're familiar with the Global Engagement Center because they basically attacked Gateway Pundit and a bunch of other conservative outlets and went after the advertising revenue, right? They went after their advertisers and said, hey, put pressure on them not to be doing that. So now there's this report from America First Legal that they uncovered during litigation with the Global Engagement Center, which was shut down in December, thank God. But during litigation with them, they found the collaboration between them to use artificial intelligence to go after mis and dis and malinformation now and flag that, send that off to the Poynter Institute, to NewsGuard, and these other gatekeepers of information. And, this is why President Trump cutting out USAID funding, why President Trump dismantling USAID, which is nothing more than a CIA front, and that's not a secret. It's really big for being able to get free speech, back on the right track again.
Hmm. Yeah, what you sound like Mike Benz there. What do you think of him?
I like Mike Benz. He's very knowledgeable. I know, some people, I mean, it's in this movement, you're always going to have your detractors, you're going to have people that, say negative things, and it is what it is. I listen to Mike Benz's content, and the guy, he gets it. He speaks truth. He talks a lot about, everything going on. Does he go as far as he could go? No, but he's also, had pretty, I would imagine at the State Department, he's had some pretty high clearances. So there are some things that, he has to be careful around. But ultimately, I think he's one of the champions for free speech and cleaning up this propaganda machine.
Yeah, he's very knowledgeable about a lot. Like you said, USAID, he knew immediately. USAID was just this. He's the one who, I guess, probably planted that thought in my brain about USAID being the CIA entity. So I really didn't know a lot of that. The one thing he clarified too, I don't know if you've seen this information. I wrote about this years ago about how Soros is in Ukraine, and we've got Romney and Pelosi and all these other Bidens, all these people in Ukraine, and Soros is in Ukraine. you know, and I was like, there's got to be a connection here. And Benz comes back and says, "Oh yeah, here's the connection." And actually, he released something here this past few weeks. I don't know where he found this document, but it was that the Clintons shared that some guy that worked for the Clintons from the State Department, who then went on to run a big entity, the Brookings Institute. He ends up putting out this memo that we need to have our foreign policy in alignment with a couple countries, maybe, and maybe the UK and George Soros. So that was the Clinton policy. It's an unbelievable document. I'm like, what? And he brought that up. So Soros has been tied into our foreign policy. And you know what? I think, Brian, I think that's what's really been going on. It seems at times I'm like, this stuff is so nasty, what they're doing to people like Tina Peters, for example. It's dark. It's got this Soros look about it. That's really evil, fascism at its worst.
Soros, they just had their offices raided in India. Did you see that?
Yeah.
They just raided their offices in India over foreign funding instances. Georgia's been up in arms about foreign aid coming into their place, trying to cut these NGOs out. And it's the Western powers that are saying, no, you need to allow this. We have the same laws in the United States. We have Foreign Agent Registration Act in the United States, but Georgia can't have that. And you brought up Ukraine, I did like a lot of research into Ukraine and USAID and their influence there, and going back to the Maidan. And when the Maidan kicked off in November of 2013, right around November 20th, 22nd, right around there, all of a sudden you had these three media outlets that popped up, and one of them was Spilno TV, the other was Romdaski, and I'm probably saying that wrong, but these were all funded by USAID through an entity called Internews and MBU. And, they come out and there's, civil engineering, civil society organizations that are trying to promote independent journalism and all that. It's nothing but a propaganda arm for the United States. And that's essentially what motivated the protesters there. Of course, they had a little push from some embedded bad actors, but that's what pushed that there. And this is something we do across the globe. This is something USAID, USIP, the U.S. Institute for Peace, they do the same thing. And there's a lot of these NGOs that and government organizations like USAID that are doing this stuff, and we got to cut this out, man. And the judge, given the death curdle, USAID's on the death curdle right now. It's that last little groan before it disappears, and the judge is trying to prop it up as best they can.
Yeah, it's yeah. They're not they're not on the side of Americans. I mean, really, just like that monster down in Brazil. Like I said, the thing too that Ben's reported recently, and I've seen this before though, is that Biden got rid of this one act, the Moon Act or something, where we could use propaganda in other countries, like you're talking about there, but we can't use it against American citizens. And Obama opened that up and allowed our own government, the CIA, to start lying and promoting lies to the American people. And and so I think his point was it all goes back to Obama.
Yeah, so the Smith-Mundt Act of 1947 allowed us to propagandize foreign countries with American exceptionalism through the State Department. And then you're exactly right. In 2012, Obama tried to pass the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, which would allow them to propagandize American citizens on U.S. soil. However, it was not able to pass. And so what did Obama do? He stuffed it into the National Defense Authorization Act in an omnibus bill and slid that through in 2012. And there's a great post by CannCon the Great on X where they have a chart, a historic chart of certain phrases that have to do with racism, white supremacy, white nationalism, and that kind of thing. And you can see the mainstream media's mention of, words like white supremacy, words like critical race theory, etc. And they just skyrocket in 2013 after they passed that Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. And that is something that has been used to legally propagandize the American people for the last decade. And it's one I think we really need to repeal that. But at the same time, are they using it now on our side? I don't know. I think ultimately it needs to go be repealed, and truth needs to be, the ultimate factor in what's disseminated.
It's not the government's job to push information towards the American people. That's just not their job. It's not in the Constitution. They never even imagined some of this stuff, but it's just not there. Our government's, it has very limited things it can do, and as we're finding out. Anyways, Brian, it's an honor to have you again. Thank you again for driving me in Springfield those few years back to that Lindell Symposium. We had a great time. Anyways, it's always great to see you. Keep up. It's great work. We'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Take care. God bless.
Thank you. Everybody else have a great weekend. Appreciate you being here. And we will see you early next week. Thanks.